Hey guys, what's up? It's me, People25 here, and today I am bringing you my tips for a perfect visit to Six Flags Great America. Perfect subjectively, of course, but I've been going to this park for a very long time. This video is, of course, very long overdue. I think I promised this video all the way back towards opening day in the spring or early summer of last year. It's been a long while since I promised this video, and I'm finally here to do it after a three-week drought. Because, well, I've been working quite a bit as of late because my summer hours have been pretty wonky. I've gone to, of course, vacations. I've been going on and off from vacations, on and off to places, and I have a couple college visits coming up, so I can figure out what the heck I'm going to do with my life after next year. Because, well, next year's my last year in high school, so I'll be gone the next couple Fridays for that. I haven't gotten to visit Great America in about 2 weeks, so I mean, I of course don't have a very recent visit in my book, but yeah, 3 weeks overdue is kind of unacceptable for me. I don't know why it took me so long to get another video up, but I decided, hey, it's time to do this one. I've gone enough times this year. So yeah, I've gathered data from and experience from visiting not just Great America, but other parks in 2017 and 2018, like Magic Mountain, Knott's Berry Farm, Universal Studios, Cedar Point, and Six Flags New England, just to name a few, for big parks, and I can compare and contrast how Great America stacks up to them. And I know what to do with Great America more than any other park, and I'm going to share my information of going to the park. I believe I've been going to the park since 2007. Originally, I don't think I rode my first coaster there until 2009, so that doesn't matter. Disregard that. Yeah, and just hope the wait's worth it. I'm going to do these tips in likely, well, chronological order of one's visit, or at least for the first few tips, because, yeah, I think it'd be more organized that way. My very first tip is to get there early. That's my first tip. Get to the park at least like 30, 45 minutes before it opens. I like getting there 45 minutes before it opens. 9:45, because the park's typical opening time is 10:30. I like doing that. Security lines, especially when you wait towards close to the park opening, gets pretty meaty. They're pretty big, and you might easily have to wait 20 minutes just to get through security on busier days. So that's a bit of a mess in its own. I like being able to get to the front of the line for security, maybe only have like 2 cattle pen rows filled before me, if I get there at like 9:50, 10 o'clock. And yeah, you also get to have priority of which line you go to first after that. So the earlier you get in line, the more you're going to have to wait in the park's entrance. Just stand around, wait for the gates to open. But you will have earlier priority in what to choose. There are also places to hang out in the morning for food and drink, McDonald's, Burger King. There's of course a couple hotels nearby, but if you show up, I recommend highly to get here before opening early. Highly recommend it. Things get a little chaotic at the very beginning if you don't do that. If you get here like late, if you're going to be doing like a half day, show up at like 4 and stay till close. That does disregard this tip, but I know a lot of people like to devote a full day to this park. Get here early, and my next tip will apply directly after this. I will say that the park often opens security between 10 o'clock and 10:10. It depends on who's the manager of that front end at that point and how things are going with diagnostics. And the admissions often open up 10:15, 10:20, so that they allow actually guests to get into the park, to spread out where they'd like, and wait in line for a roller coaster before it opens, or a flat ride. People can break right for Raging Bull, Viper, Whizzer, or X-Flight Demon, or people can break left for Superman, Dark Knight, Joker, Mardi Gras Hangover, Batman, V-Tour, Goliath. And they can go either way for Eagle or whatever. But yeah, getting there early will give you priority in those lines. The earlier you are, the better off you are. Just you're going to have to wait a little longer. But that will probably be the longest bout of waiting if you do that, if you go in that type of day. And in terms of getting there early, I want to talk about a day that I recommend going there. Let's just assume you have an open schedule and you have any day of the week to choose to go to Great America. I'd recommend going on a weekday. Not a Monday, not a Friday. Sometimes Fridays are a little light, but I think going on a Tuesday or Wednesday is one of the best days to do it. Since you'll probably have the lowest crowds, and also try and go on a day that is either abysmally hot to where people go to the water park instead of the dry park, or is cloudy and kind of overcast because people are scared of it being rain, or it's just a looming threat of isolated thunderstorms because Illinois weather changes every 4 seconds. So you never know when those thunderstorms are either going to dip south, dip north, or just never show up in the first place. And even so, the park's weather policy is very lenient. They close when rain's in the area, they open back up as soon as the rain dissipates, and they test the rides. And lightning, lightning has to be within maybe 5 miles of the park in order for the things to close. So yeah, their rain policy is quite nice over at Great America if you go on an isolated thunderstorms day. And crowds will be very light. Light crowds are not often at this park, but when you do, you're going to have a great time. And my next tip is to get on Goliath First. This ride is nearly 5 years old, opening in 2014, and is still the consistently longest wait of any coaster in the park, and even longer than Hangover at some points. Hitting it first will guarantee you your first ride will be less than 5 trains wait if you show up early at the park as well. You may have to wait, but getting on that means you'll get a very short wait on Goliath, when often it'll be 45 to 90 minutes a day later. Even on a considerably dead day for Great America, you'll find Goliath is at least a 30-45 minute wait. Which, would you rather wait? Maybe if you want to do a re-ride at that cost, but I recommend highly to get on this thing first. I thought everyone would get to this ride first, but it turns out a lot of people in the park just don't want to walk a very far distance immediately. They like either riding Superman, Dark Knight, or Hangover, or Wizard. Those are the most common opener rides. Goliath is really only to those who know that Goliath gets the longest wait, or for those who want to get on the most thrilling ride first. And also, depending on the day, Goliath will remain a station wait for about a half hour or even more, allowing a pretty limited window. It's almost like ERT, just for marathons. And if you go early, you often have a better chance of being able to choose your seat. They assign seats on Goliath when it gets busier. But if there's open rows, you can just walk to whatever row you want. Or you can just, hey, I want to go to back row, because my personal favorite row is the back. And it's probably the best in the back. So you get stack up for the back. And sometimes the back gets much shorter lines than the front. So it'll probably be easier to get on the back. It's just, Goliath would be a very good thing to start your day with. Good ride to start with, and a good way to avoid a larger wait towards the middle of the day. And after that first bout of just no wait, it's consistently going to get much, much longer throughout the day. It won't die off until very close to closing time. So yeah, get on Goliath first. You won't regret that. My number 3, I just want to talk about some rides you just cannot miss if you come here. There's some rides that are, of course, originals or legacy coasters. Goliath, of course, is one of the best rides in the park, and it's the favorite amongst many. And I would highly recommend riding it. Don't miss Goliath, actually, as well as Raging Bull. Do not miss a back ride row in Raging Bull. I will say the back is the only row it's good, and front rows will waste your time. But Raging Bull, especially if it's running 3 trains, that thing eats people up. So the line will never really be longer than like half an hour, even on the busiest of days, if you get on a 3-train day. American Eagle is a very often short wait, sub 15 minutes, because people know it's getting a little rough. But a lot of people like the classic Intamin 1980s Woody Charm. The very first, I think it's the first wooden coaster they ever made. And it remains one of the longest racing coasters even to this day, and is an icon of the park's history. So, Eagle is often a very good choice. And you also get to laugh at how unnecessarily long the queue line is. Consider how many people ride it. Be aware that sometimes they don't run 2 sides. Actually, more often than not. More often than not, they only run 1 side on it. Viper, yeah, this thing's hit or miss. Sometimes you can get a station wait, which will be like 5 trains, because they can fit a lot of people in the station. Sometimes they'll line 30 minutes. It really depends. Sometimes you'll see it fluctuate. This ride is probably the most fluctuation of any ride you'll see in the park. Sometimes it's dead, sometimes it's roaring. Especially since if the water park opens, if you're going that type of year, you'll probably see a lot of people ride Viper before they hit the water park. The best time to ride Viper is probably midday for me. A lot of people are making their way all towards the back of the park. And the Hurricane Harbor's open. People are going up to that instead of Viper, which is right next door. It's just Viper's probably the best to ride midday. I think, of course, you got to hit up Batman. I think Batman is, it's a Batman clone, yes, but it's the first Batman clone and the first ever inverted coaster, or at least modern inverted coaster, with an Ace Coaster landmark to boot. Ride it. It's one of the better Batman clones that I've been on, and I think that it's definitely good to ride a piece of history. Even if it's just a Batman clone, it's got a lot of history behind it. V2, the line can get beefy, but other times the line's like 3 trains. Maybe ride it just after Goliath if you want to head your way back that way. I think riding it just after Goliath, assuming it's up and not having some mechanical problems with its LIM, is a good thing to ride right after Goliath, unless you want to hit up, say, X-Flight. The line can get a little long, and X-Lite as well, considering their dispatch times are never very shoddy. And Whizzer's a really good way to either open your day, which I would not recommend because of Goliath, or close your day, because a night ride on Whizzer is really nice, because you're going into like a wooded area of the park. Trees, like little ponds or marshes. It's like there's no natural light except coming from a little bit from the station. It's a really good night ride. And guests can bear skipping Joker, Superman, Dark Knight if they've ridden their clones before. People who don't like Arrow Loopers can avoid Demon. I think it's okay to miss that one. But if you want to, I think Demon, if you do ride it, you'll get off to a pretty quick line. So you can pick up the +1 for pretty cheap and quick. It's never really more than 15 minutes from what I've seen, even though I haven't ridden the ride in about 2 years. And the two kiddie coasters, Little Dipper and Sprocket Rockets, can both be skipped. Sprocket Rockets is a pretty easy one to get on, maybe only a few trains, especially since they stripped the theming out of there. But Little Dipper's line can get absolutely absurd. Since it's a vintage 1950s coaster, and basically people that are 60 years old, 70 even, still ride it because it's what they rode as a child. So Little Dipper, if you really are going to hoard that credit, ride it towards the beginning of the day. Like hit up Goliath and then work your way back towards V2 and Little Dipper if you plan on doing that. If you plan on hitting those 3 long, poor operations credits, and then just improv your day from there. Little Dipper, it's actually very surprising. Little Dipper often gets a line larger than Raging Bull, based off capacity alone. So yeah, there's that. I got some flats I want you to do as well. They have a few rare and vintage flats in their possession. I'm going to go over the ones that I personally like. They got a few really good modern ones as well. Of all the vintage flats, my personal favorite is Lobster. It's pretty close to Whizzer and just before the entrance to Hurricane Harbor, just before the fork that gets you to Demon and Viper. It's a really nice ride, and it often only has a 1 or 2 cycle wait unless you go on a really busy day, especially since the hype of it recently reopening is gone. And Justice League, if you haven't been on one, do it, especially since the single rider line is often a very quick way to get on it. You can even marathon it. I've gotten 10 rides in less than half an hour on this thing, and most of it was on the ride cycle. And of course, depending on what your taste of thrills are, they offer a few crazy, larger, more thrilling flat rides. Mardi Gras Hangover, a 100-foot tall super loop, is good for the nice loop crazy, heavy inverting super thrill seekers, but it also gets a long line that's still new, and it's been having problems as of late. So maybe wait till next year till they get some of the bugs sorted out, if you want to do it. I haven't personally ridden it yet, surprisingly. And of course, if you want to do a drop tower, giant drop, it's actually a very small wait for most of it, unless it's running VR like it is right now. Always check to see if it's running VR. If it is, you're going to have a long wait. If it isn't, like 3 cycles at most. I've never had to wait more than like 10 minutes for it every time I chose to ride it. And I go on weekdays. And really, of course, the guest has a lot of preference in what flats they want to ride. If they have a couple other thrilling flat rides as well, they have a typical like Huss inside facing frisbee called Revolution. They have Troika, a wooded scrambler, a big top pirate ship, Calypso. They got some kiddie flats as well, a wave swinger. They got a couple water rides, 2 log flumes, a rapids ride. They got a condor, bumper cars, observation tower. They got a bunch of stuff for you to do if you don't feel like riding a bunch of coasters. There's a lot of stuff around there. So just feel free to do whatever you want. Oh yeah, teacups. Forgot about that one too. They have teacups. Actually, a big one and a small one. Do the big one because it's in shade as well. And of course, my tip 5 is probably another one of the bigger tips I have. Eat carefully, especially for your wallet, your time, and for the quantity of whatever you eat, or quality. If you do not have a Six Flags dining pass, I would not recommend eating in the park. I would recommend walking to an outside local locations. They have a McDonald's, a Burger King that I mentioned earlier. For cheap fast food, the McDonald's is a little bit of a further walk, but it has the same cost as a lot of the other McDonald's in the area, so pretty cheap. You can get an entire meal at McDonald's for less than what you would for a single meal at Great America, and you will be more full off McDonald's. You can get your hand stamped at the exit, and you will have to go through security again, but you get admitted for free again with your hand stamp. It's not a far walk either. So you just basically walk out the parking lot on the right side, take Six Flags Drive or whatever it is, to the main road Grand, and you can just walk Grand, and you'll see a bunch of restaurants you can choose from. Local eateries such as Timothy O'Toole's, which is like a pub style type of thing, local as well, is another really good good local place to eat as well. And of course, these places are 15 minutes by foot. So yeah, it tastes better than Six Flags food, costs less, and may actually save you time because Six Flags Great America's food operations are horrible. I mean, unless you go to one of the deadest locations in the park, you'll see that a couple of the places have absurdly long lines at peak dining hours. I often have to sacrifice 20 minutes of my day plus 10 minutes more to eat it just to get a plate of spaghetti at Capone's, which I'll talk about that. If you do have a dining pass and get food for free, there's a few okay places to eat. For burgers, they have 2 Johnny Rockets, a sports bar called JB's in Southwest Territory, and an indoor burger place called Moose Burger in Yukon. For those liking chicken, I would highly recommend going to Strutter's. Strutter's is located pretty close to Whizzer in Hometown Square. And really, I don't think there's any standout pizza places. It's all the same, but they do have a few unorthodox, untypical food options. Spaghetti at Capone's in Yankee Harbor by Batman and Yankee Clipper, and Italian beef at Big Lou's, pretty close to Condor and Superman, and across from the bumper cars. So, yeah, there's a few good places to eat, but if you don't have a dining pass, I would not recommend wasting your time or your money doing anything, unless you do not like fast food and you'd rather eat amusement park food. Then in that case, be my guest. And then, of course, if you don't really want to do any of the rides, if you're getting a little motion sickness, if you're feeling a little oozy, or if you just want to just sit back, watch something, maybe get a drink as well, since a lot of places have drinks nearby, because there's drinks everywhere. There's a few short and long entertainment options. For they often have the entertainment options vary year to year, so of course check the Six Flags app or the website before doing any of this. And check times. The Six Flags app will often post times. If not, they'll be posted in the park at the site of their place, so they have a time posted where they play it. They'll often have signs pointing to where that attraction will be. For shorter shows, you have a country dance show. You can meet my good friend Billy the Bull. You'll have an interactive flash mob type of dance called Party Gras. You're going to have a large Mardi Gras themed dance party with comic things such as Follow the Leader, the Electric Slide, things like that. Popular dance songs like that. And then they have one of their first shows of the day being a pop-up dance party in Hometown Square right by the main gazebo, with a couple interesting Looney Tunes characters popping up around there, if you so want to do that. Also, for those who like characters and for those for younger kids, Orleans Place by the Looney Tunes merch place has character showings between 2 and 5. So, and you can meet a variety of characters easily. I don't know how many they rotate. Yes, it's pretty new, and I'm pretty sure they'll carry it for a while after this. So, yeah. And by Whizzer, you'll find their auditorium show venue, Grand Music Hall. The new show will probably play there twice a day, every year or two, so they rotate their things. Right now, it's like some sort of, rocklusion, so magic and rock music. And these shows have special effects, so they're in a full-fledged auditorium. And especially if you come during Halloween season, check out Love at First Fright. It's a classic show that's been running for over 20 years at the park, and is still going strong. However, people will literally kill each other to get in there, because it is so popular. Especially with the NSFW version they hold late at night. So, yeah. The Pictorium was a thing, but they tore it down, so disregard that as an entertainment option. They have a few also late-night entertainment options in common places. A lot of the shorter dance shows are held during the day, between noon and 4 o'clock, and a lot of the full-fledged, longer special effects shows are held between 4 and 8 p.m. So, and there is a show of Rocklusions earlier in the day, but it will be competing with some of the smaller shows. So if you want to do any of the entertainment, be my guest. If you just want to avoid it, that's fine. But of course, number 7, the final tip, is my biggest tip of them all. Have fun. Simple as that, have fun. If you go to a theme park and you're miserable, that's not a good visit. These tips are only guidelines to follow as advice and is not the penultimate way of doing this park. This park, especially if you go on a less busy day with threats of clouds and storms on a weekday, yeah, you're gonna have a fairly empty park considering how thin the herd is spread because of all the rides that are there and all the food options. Even when I visit, I only follow a few of these tips. I have a couple things I do every time, like Raging Bull, Goliath, and a couple other rides like Lobster. but I really just kind of wing the rest. If I don't feel like riding X-Light or Superman, I don't ride X-Light or Superman. If I don't feel like watching a certain show, I'll just kind of walk past it. I mean, it's up to the person. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Just to each their own. You could just visit whatever you feel like. No one will judge you if you skip a ride that you don't really like. If you don't like wing coasters, skip X-Flight. If you don't like flyers, they make you nauseous, skip Superman. If you've already done a clone of those rides and you don't want to pick up the credit, you're not that type of person, you go, that's just fine, skip them. If you don't want to do Joker, don't do Joker. If you don't want to eat at a certain place, or if you do want to eat at a certain place despite not having a pass, do that. These are just merely advice, inquiries, for incoming visitors looking to capitalize on the most time of their visit. This park is definitely a full day park, unless it is absolutely dead, which it often isn't. I mean, I think that, just of course, I'm just trying to help you here. I'm trying to share what my time at Great America, my 7 or 10, 11 years of coming to this park has shown me. I've seen this place boom, bust, trench, and recess. I've seen it arc, I've seen it peak, I've seen it traw, and I've seen it gone. I've seen things come and go. I've seen lots of things. And I think that just a lot of things have changed, but this is my current advice for what's going on. Now, I hope you take these tips with a little bit of, I mean, if you want to follow them, go ahead. If you don't, go ahead. If you're just watching because you're watching the videos on my channel and you like me as a person, thank you. Feel free to follow these anyway. Okay, so with that all done and out of the way, I hope you guys sorry about that. I've screwed up my own outro. That's why I know I'm rusty. So, if you guys enjoyed the video, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscription. I hope you guys have a great insert unit of time here. And as always,